Are you ready for the Low Blows Network? Finally,
they finally gave me my own podcast.
Gerry comes to the Low Blows Network. One of the biggest legends of the Irish wrestling scene, Gerry talks to his wrestling friends and beyond about the hobbies in their lives that they're most nerdy about in Talk Nerdy to Me.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Talk Nerdy to Me with your host, Gerry. We are back in studio again. Dave is with me once again. Look at that beard. My God.
He said it to me almost every single show. It hasn't changed much since.
Well, Dave, are you a Father Ted fan?
Of course I am.
Right, you're a Father Ted fan. Do you remember the scene where Father Dougal says, "How's your bra?" Well, Dave, yours, how's your beard? Look at that. Jesus. I've never seen anything like it. I've seen big beards, but nothing as luxurious as that.
Well, it's less naughty than last time because I gave it a good comb and a shower the other day, and it's like, so it's not as naughty.
Well, it was a bit.
It's like,
in fairness, last time it was here was a bit far away from me.
oh yeah, because we're in the other room.
We were in the other studio.
So that's probably why you're like, oh, look at it now, because now it feels like, oh, you're like 10 feet less than me than you were from last time.
Well, I was, I was a bit more important. Last time I was hosting people last time.
Yeah.
We got them tea and coffee and all last time. People
right?
don't get that, like. But ladies and gentlemen, we have another fantastic special for you this week, and we have somebody who is not a stranger of the show. He's been on about 346 times now at this stage. But we always love having him on because he's a wealth of knowledge and he's great crack to have on. We have little debates and we have a bit of crack. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Rick Nash. Rick, how are you?
Thanks for having me. Wait, is there an applause here?
Yeah, there's your applause, yeah.
There we go. I'm waiting for it. I was like, if those bastards don't give me my applause this time. Yeah, how are you, Gerry? I'm doing great, and my bra is fine. So checking that out. Yeah.
Well, in fairness though, you have actually sported a beard lately. And you're not someone to sport a beard. You actually have a bit of a beard. Last time I seen you, which was only last week, start to come in.
Yeah.
I know, it's weird. Yeah, it's weird, man. It's weird. I'm trying to live that Dave Cullen life, but I'll never get it just right.
Let me give you some advice. Just don't shave. Period.
Right.
I swear, I swear to God, like everyone keeps telling me, what's the secret? It's easy. Don't shave.
He's gonna look like Forrest Gump when he went running across America. Because if he doesn't shave, he's not gonna clean himself either.
See, I believe I believe that when he wears a bandana tracksuit top and wears those short shorts and runs halfway across the country. So,
I'm going to dress up as Dave Cullen for Halloween.
Yay! You have no idea. Look at the smile on Dave's face, my God.
I'll give you a beanie and one of my metal t-shirts. That's all you need.
Brilliant, yes.
My God. Well, obviously, Rick, you're here for a reason, and it's a different reason than we've normally had on, because normally our topics are very nerdy. Would you describe this topic as nerdy? Or would that you're just nerdy about it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is super nerdy. This is what we're going to discuss is me being nerdy about a filmmaker whose movies are based around how nerdy he is about movies. So this is like nerd section. This is proper nerdy.
That's the absolute perfect description. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this week we're talking about the writer and director, Mr. Quentin Tarantino. My God, this man is a god when it comes to films. And I'm sure you agree with that because, of course, you're here to talk about him.
Yeah, no, I love it. Like, it's weird, like, because it's Tarantino, like, I remember I saw Pulp Fiction when I was way before I probably should have, when I was like on holidays with my parents, and like it was just on in the background of like a random like Lanzarote pub or wherever we were, and like I watched it and was just completely transfixed. I was like, this was just like, I didn't know they made movies about this, and I didn't even fully understand what was going on, but it has that replay value where like Pulp Fiction is my favorite movie of all time. I'm the most annoying person to watch it with because it's one of those movies. I think we all have at least one of them. If you're of a certain nerdy disposition where I can quote it line for line as we go along, like it's absolutely ridiculous. Like I could literally say like the full, like I was telling you this beforehand, I can do the full Ezekiel 25:17 speech.
Yes.
Like not a bother on me.
Well, I tell you what, right? Seeing as Pulp Fiction is your favourite film, and you've now made that statement to the world because the tens and hundreds of thousands of people that listen to the show, they're going to want you to say it. So I tell you what, go for it.
Yeah, let's do this. Okay,
Go for it.
I really want to do it. All right. Okay, listen, I have to do my bit. I'm gonna stand up. I have to do my Sam Jackson, right?
Oh, he's standing up. He has the gun in his hand and all that. Visualize this. He is currently turning black.
Ezekiel 25:17. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee. And then your man screams.
Hey, that deserves a round of applause. Absolutely brilliant. I tell you, you really got into that. You really got into that.
I do it every time I watch the movie. I watched the movie a few weeks ago, and I say it along with him all the time. Like it's really annoying if there's other people in the room. They hate it.
Just the last few days, I watched that scene because I kind of wanted to get myself into mood for a bit of Tarantino, and I watched that scene. It's so good, like it didn't, and not just that part, just the entire scene where they're in that room. Absolutely brilliant. Well, what I love about the fact that, you know, Jackson auditioned for a different role, and he was like, no. Tarantino was like, no, we're going to get you. I'm going to write this specifically for you. And so this role was literally made for Samuel L. Jackson, and he just was stellar in this. Absolutely amazing. There's a reason why he's one of the highest paid actors in the world, and that's because of it.
Yeah, he made his career with this. Like that was just like a coming out party and a half. Just everything, like, because he had all he had every emotion, every spectrum of emotion within that one kind of chapter. Like from outside, like having the banter with John Travolta, and then having a serious debate about whether a foot massage is sexual or not. Like he's like, I'm the fucking master, and then he gets into the apartment, and then that whole speech and that whole monologue is comedic, it's intimidating, it's threatening, it's tense, it's funny, it's got everything. It's like, what ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak English, and what? English, motherfucker, do you speak it? I love it. It's so, like, it's just, you can't not watch it. You can't take your eyes off it. Like, what an intro to a movie. Have we ever had an introduction to a movie, a first scene that just grabs you as soon as that? It just, and Pulp Fiction then just never lets go. I love the movie to bits, second by second. It's mad because, like, I love Tarantino as a movie maker, but he's the kind of guy that, like, and as the years go on and I grow older, and especially as we kind of develop as a society, I feel, like, uncomfortable around him. Like, for example, my favorite role that Tarantino ever played, the one thing I don't like about Pulp Fiction is when he stars in it, because his character doesn't fit in that movie, and you'll find out a lot in the way he casts himself in his movies. But the best role I've ever seen him in is when he casts himself in Dusk Till Dawn, and he's a rapist murderer. And it's like, yes, he's really good at that role. And it's like, I never loved the director's work so much, but kind of felt as uneasy about the man as I do at the same time. Like, so it's weird. Like, I have a real split emotion towards Tarantino. And I've watched all his movies building up to, like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and even then, watching them back in 2019, it's a very different experience to maybe when I watched it 10 years ago, and it's I don't know, it's an interesting one for me.
Yeah, I think you're right when you say that, because you look at the newer stuff like of Django and Hateful Eight, and you know they're a lot more modern when you compare them to like Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. Yeah, he's a fantastic writer, fantastic director. He is a good actor, but in certain ways he's a bit like, oh Jesus, no.
Yeah,
like,
there's a lot of stuff in there. Like, for example, things I kind of felt uneasy with as I was watching stuff back. And for years I would have been, like, defending him, and I would have been one of these people that would have, like, fought his corner, like, and defended his right. Not necessarily that I agreed with a lot of decisions he made, but, like, I would have fought for his right to express them. But then watching it back now these days, again, like, some of the things that struck me, and maybe I'm just getting older and a bit more crotchety, like, a lot of the violence he uses against women is quite, and it even happens in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well. Like, he plays violence against women for laughs, like, and it's like, I don't feel comfortable around that, where it's like, it feels like you're a guy who like had difficulty with women at some stage in your life, and you're kind of working through some stuff. But even then, like even stuff like, you know, we've heard him, like, people give out about like how his use of the N word is very excessive and provocative, and you look at the likes of Django and stuff, and it's like it just doesn't belong in there at times. I think there's uses of it in Inglourious Bastards, and there's just no need for it. Like,
no, not in that
it
film.
kind of. Like, not in that movie, it's about Nazi Germany, like, what the fuck, but they still managed to fit it in, like, somewhere, and it's like, there's some things where it's like, for example, one thing that kind of really makes me uneasy is, it's been well covered, you probably know it yourself, like, his rumored foot fetish that he has, where he always has to have feet in his movies. Have you heard about this?
No, actually, tell us about that one.
So basically, watch any Tarantino movie, and you're going to have a prolonged sequence. And in the new one as well, you'll notice it now that you've been told to spot it. He'll have like a prolonged sequence in the movie where you just like he focuses in on women's feet, like, and it's weird. It's really weird. And the fact that he did it in this movie as well is weird because, like, you know, you can't not watch a Tarantino movie now. His entire back catalogue has Harvey Weinstein's name all over it.
Oh, dear.
You know what I mean? Which is not a good look. It's not a great look.
That's certainly not going to age well.
Exactly, yeah. But, like, what was Harvey Weinstein known for? He was known for kind of making people feel uncomfortable, like forcing his will upon women who didn't want to do his bidding, but he loved the power and being able to, like, get away with it in plain sight and stuff like that. So Quentin Tarantino came out and distanced himself from Harvey after all this. Obviously, he had to, like, and this movie obviously was the first one he made away from Miramax. But, like, then to see him then, like, having young women actresses for no reason just have, like, show their feet on the screen, like, constantly, like, which is just like, this doesn't play into the story. It doesn't make the story any better. It feels like an elderly man who's just making a woman do something because he's in a position of power and can. When you're associated with Harvey Weinstein, that's probably not something you want to, you know, that's not an avenue you want to go down. It's not a look you want to have. It's tough. Like, so there's a lot of stuff like that where I'm like, oh man, I feel uneasy about this. But then his movies are great in another way. Yeah. He's just a complex character. And that's not to excuse this. It's just, like, I feel shady coming on here and saying I'm such a big fan when I also share these opinions of it. But the movies themselves are works of absolute art. And they're fantastically entertaining, and I still stand by that. It's just, like everything in 2019, it's complicated.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you would think, though, because he was associated with Harvey and with everything that went with that you say to yourself, right, I need to be a bit more careful here about what I'm doing. And he does almost the opposite in this new movie.
Yeah, like, there's some bits which are just, like, there's one bit of violence in it where one of the characters, like, just a woman runs at him and he just fucks like a can of mayonnaise at her face, and it's like, it's funny, you laugh when you watch it, and then you go, Jesus Christ, that was really violent and it was against a woman, and he's after making me laugh, because the physical comedy of it works. You just get the ha, you know what I mean, and then you're like, what if I just laughed?
You feel terrible for laughing.
Yeah, and it's like just being really provocative and in your face, and again, it's like, you have to ask yourself what part of this is necessary and isn't. Now, for the record, spoiler warning. No, not an actual spoiler warning. But, like, spoilers for this podcast, I really enjoyed the new movie. I think it's one of his best. But, like, there are still, now it's just like, there's two sides to it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where it's like, there's great artists that we know are actually disgraceful. Like, you watch a Louis C.K. comedy show and you're like, these are funny jokes. This is a man who's really good at his job. But then there's the other stuff, you know what I mean? And Tarantino is starting to feel a bit like that. Now, nothing's ever come out about him, like, that's too kind of grotesque or anything. He seems very committed to his work, and, like, he gets involved. Like, there's stuff, like, where we were just talking about it before we went on the air. Like, what was it? In Inglourious Bastards, he kind of was, he had to choke one of the female lead, Brigitte von Hammerschmidt, I think her name is.
Brigitte von Hammersmark. Yeah, It was the whole idea was that obviously it was Hans Landa was the character. It was played by Christoph Waltz, who was a fantastic actor. But Tarantino just thought, well, he's an actor. He's not going to, he's going to try and do it as well as he can, but it's not going to be quite as real as I want it. So he talked to Diane Kruger and he said, right, okay, I'm going to be the one to do it. We're going to film it. and I'm really going to choke you. You okay with this? And she was okay with it, and she came out publicly saying, he didn't do anything that I didn't want him to do. It was very real, it was very professional. I would absolutely work on him again. But he actually chokes her when he's filming the scene, to the point where he nearly, she nearly goes unconscious, or he nearly actually kills her. And he wanted that realism. So, as good as he is, does he go over the line a bit?
Yeah, there's stuff like that as well, and there's stories like from Uma Thurman, like from Kill Bill. Now, Uma Thurman Kill Bill was written for Uma Thurman. She was, after Pulp Fiction, she was golden in his eyes, and he'd have her in every movie, kind of the same way he does Sam Jackson in some way, or Kurt Russell now is one of his new guys. You know what I mean?
Even DiCaprio now.
But Tim Roth as well. He's got these great actors there, just as guys. But anyway, no, sorry. Uma Thurman in Kill Bill, she said that she was involved in a car crash because Quentin just wanted to push her towards realism and stuff like that. And then when Michael Madsen's character spat on her, apparently that was Quentin Tarantino who actually spat on her and stuff like that. Whereas it's is this a guy this is Harvey Weinstein's mate. We know he's Harvey Weinstein's mate. Harvey Weinstein's name is all over his back catalogue, all right? And here's a guy who seems to like getting away with doing a lot of stuff to women just because he can, and it doesn't seem to serve the art or doesn't seem to have a creative purpose behind it. It just seems like he likes doing these things. So I don't know if maybe this will be the last kind of podcast or this era after this movie is the last time we can come out and fanboy over him.
Yeah.
But I just want to put that out there as well, that if you feel these feelings, I feel them too. Before I go on to say how amazing of a director he is, because the two things can be true at the same time. You can be amazing. Roman Polanski is a character in this new movie, and what better fucking example? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Made some of the best movies of all time, but also the other stuff.
Yeah.
Woody Allen, another name. You know what I mean? They're great artists, but they do fucked up shit. You know what I mean?
Well, it's kind of like the argument that people have when it comes to Chris Benoit. You look at him and you look at his achievements in the ring, and it's one of the greatest of all time. But nobody's going to forget what he did.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to even look at his name escapes me. Hollywood actor he came out as gay, but he came out as gay because
Kevin Spacey?
Yes.
That's the one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey's career, Kevin Spacey's acting catalogue is absolutely incredible. One of the best actors of all time.
One of the best, 100%.
When that many people come out and accuse you of doing things you shouldn't be doing, there's something very wrong there. But you can't take away what he did in terms of on the screen, and you'll never be able to take away Tarantino's achievements as a director and writer.
Yeah, and look, for the record, we're not equivocating what he's done with what these people have done. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't broken the law. There's no scandals have come out about him, and you know what I mean? If it was going to come out, now would have been, the past few years would have been a good time for that to happen.
Yes.
So, Harvey Weinstein, a person more powerful than him, his boss got scandalized, but Quentin hasn't. So let's just clarify that as well, that, it's just, I feel a general unease watching them, and I find it interesting, and it's an observation worth making when you're looking at Quentin Tarantino's filmography in 2019, that there are these things that make us go, ooh, 2019 has given me a new perspective on that scene. That's I don't know how I feel now, but a lot of his work is also about pushing buttons. He wants to push buttons, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he can do so as well very effectively, and he can push buttons for the right reasons too, you know what I mean? There's some really powerful, there's a whole filmography of powerful shit, you know what I mean? And ultimately we're discussing the good of it. I just wanted to get that out there, you know what I mean? I get it.
That was, ladies and gentlemen, that's our official disclaimer. So if you're listening to this 5 years from now and something has happened, fingers crossed it hasn't, we gave you the disclaimer, so, there you go.
Pretty much.
But, his entire collection is absolutely fantastic, but you can't talk about his achievements without talking about some of the actors' achievements that's been in the movies. I'm going to bring up one in particular. He's the only man to have won an Oscar under Tarantino, and that was Christoph Waltz. Of course, he didn't win one, he won two.
Yes.
Two films back-to-back. Colonel Hans Landa in Inglourious Basterds and Dr. King Schultz in Django. Fantastic performance by him. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, amazing actor, but then two fantastic characters. Completely made them characters him. And it was just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
there's so many people that's true of as well, though, and like not only people that Tarantino has made and discovered and actually turned into stars. Like Sam Jackson is another person.
Yeah.
Like who was he before? Like he was in like some movies, but he wasn't like Samuel L. Jackson. Like he wasn't one of the biggest actors in the world. Like before that, there's so many people, but there's also like people who he's like given second leases of life to. So John Travolta, Harvey Keitel, you know what I mean? Like people that he watched when he grew up. Kurt Russell even. Like who else is like? What other big movies is Kurt Russell in these days? You know what I mean? He's in Tarantino movies now. There is kind of lifeblood. So, like, he's great at that. But here's something else I want to bring up, right? Christoph Waltz, and this is a gimmick he does, right?
Yeah.
Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Basterds, one of the most evil bastards ever. And then in Django Unchained, he's the hero. Tarantino will do that. This is another thing I realized when I'm watching back. Tarantino will do that in so many of his movies. So Samuel L. Jackson, who was he in Tarantino's next movie after Pulp Fiction, where he was one of the most likable characters in it? And despite all that he'd done, he wasn't a hero, but he was likable.
Yeah.
He was the big baddie. He was Ordell Roby. He was the main bad guy in Jackie Brown, which is a really underrated Tarantino movie, 100%. By the way. Like a fantastic watch. But like he'll do that with so many different actors. If you go through back catalogs, like you'll have the bad guy in one movie because like here's the thing, like we know this from wrestling, like a really good heel ends up becoming a babyface soon enough because we admire how good they are at their job. 100%. And I think that's what happened with Christoph Waltz and Inglourious, because we're like, man, I hate that guy. But man, his talent made me hate him so much. And now I kind of like him because he's so talented. You know what I mean?
Well, even let's go back to Sam Jackson there, because he did he did the switch. He did the face to heel. But then he did heel to face then later on in the catalogue. You go and look at Django, and he was this absolute arsehole in Django. And then you go and do Hateful Eight, and he's, a good guy again. It's the way it kind of jumps him forward.
What's he though? Was he in there was that whole scene about him raping a kid before he like killed him.
I'm so glad you brought that part up.
Jesus Christ Almighty!
Kind of forgot about that bit.
He was for the most part, but then there's that little awkward scene in the middle where you're like, oh, okay. I don't know whether to feel like good that the rapist or the racist got what he was coming to him, or that like Samuel L. Jackson, bit of a sex pest. Don't know how to feel about that.
Okay, let's clarify that. Not actually Samuel L. Jackson. His character in the movie. There's another disclaimer. Let's be careful there.
No, definitely. That's the thing. Like he's just literally pushing buttons. Like you don't have to feel. There's one I won't give away spoilers, but Brad Pitt is the exact same in the next movie. Like where it's like he's like. On one hand, Brad Pitt is the best character and the most likable character, and this was maybe one of the best performances of Brad Pitt's career, and I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. It is genuinely one of the best movie star performances of his career, because that's what he is. He's allowed to go full movie star in an old school way we don't see much in 2019 these days, unless it's a superhero movie. He's badass. But then there's this one bit of information from his backstory that you're like, that's fucked up. And now I don't know how to feel for the rest of this movie. Like, and it's just like, he'll just do those little things where he's like, all of the people in my movies are scumbags and you need to remember this. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
it's amazing. It is amazing though, because the characters are scumbags, but they're played by the best of the best actors.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to look at somebody that you know is not only a fantastic actor, but obviously, a good human being, a really good person, and you're like, I don't want to hate you, but I have to.
Yeah, and they make it. They get you there.
Oh,
Samuel L. Jackson, like, despite what he's done, look at him in Django Unchained and try not to feel like, oh, I can't wait till that fucker gets what he's got coming to him.
You
like,
want a bullet in his brain.
And waiting for him. Yeah, exactly.
You want a bullet
you want that elderly man to be murdered viciously. Like.
Yeah. You really do. Like that, and that's how, Tarantino sets that up. He basically, Tarantino, very, very Vince McMahon, like, he wants you to hate these people, but like, they're such good people, but no, fuck, I have to hate them. I have to hate them. Because the shit they're doing is just so hateable, you have to do it. Like, look at Django Unchained. It's just, like, we'll even talk about Leonardo DiCaprio there. He, at one point, and we were talking about, where Tarantino goes with the racial slurs and things like that. At one point, DiCaprio said, I can't. I have to stop. I can't. I've been saying, the N word and various other things. I'm not going to say it. Various other things. I can't do it. And he's like almost having a panic attack. And he's like, I can't keep doing it. I can't keep doing it. Gets a smack in the back by Sam Jackson. Goes, motherfucker, this is just another Tuesday for us. And DiCaprio was like, okay. If you're okay with it, then I'm okay with it. I don't like it, but I'm going to do it. And my God, how he didn't win multiple awards for that role as Calvin Candy. Wow.
Did he win anything for that, by the way?
I don't think so.
No,
won nothing.
He never won it. The first Oscar he won was The Revenant, like. And it was like, that wasn't a touch on some of his best roles, like Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
How he didn't win, did not win the Oscar that year, I will never know. Like, no offense to...
lads, let's be honest, I don't know how he didn't win an Oscar for Jack in Titanic.
Who won it that year? That was your man who played in Dallas Buyers Club. What's his name? Matthew McConaughey. And he pipped him for that. But I'm thinking to myself, how on earth he didn't win that for Wolf of Wall Street? And never mind.
Because if you play someone who's sick or like suffers from racism or stuff, like the Oscars have certain beats where it's like, if you play that role, you'll win the Oscar. You know what I mean? And Matthew McConaughey knew what he was doing. He's like, I'm going to play someone who has AIDS. It's like, well, I haven't actually seen the movie, but here's the Oscar. You know what I mean? Like I've seen the movie. He was really good in it. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't even fucking close. Like the Oscars are just they're a parody to themselves at times.
But when it comes to DiCaprio, and let's be honest, he should have won an Oscar for his role as Calvin Candy, because that scene. Where he's having a little chat, they're at the dinner table and they're talking about the skulls and the skulls of black people, and he brings Hildy in, and then it just from that moment it just goes from being really good to being, oh sweet Jesus, how is this as amazing as it is? He slams his hand on the table, breaks a glass for real, cuts his hand, smothers the blood all over Hildy's face. And then casually, he's talking, and he's casually picking glass out of his hand while this is going on. And you can even see, there's one point as well where you look at Sam Jackson and you're like, are we cutting? Are we not cutting? Like the look of shock in his face, it was like, is that acting or is that really him like going, holy shit? And then like apparently as soon as that scene cut, literally standing ovation from the entire cast and crew. Everyone going, wow, oh my God, unbelievable. And of course, that was the scene that take was the one they put in the film. Yeah. His actual blood all over her face, picking glass out of his hand. How he didn't win multiple awards, not just an Oscar, multiple awards for that. But that's what Tarantino films are. They're just absolutely amazing.
It puts method acting with a capital M or something like that, doesn't it? So.
But like, there's that whole scene as well is actually a constant. It's another constant thread that I noticed in rewatching all the movies. In every movie, and like, look, I'm not hot on like Death Proof, for example. I wasn't that hot on. The Hateful Eight, I wasn't hot on when I watched it in the cinemas. Like, and I was like, oh, it's another one that I don't like. But when I watched it back like last week, I'm like, oh, actually, I like it a lot more. Like now that I kind of know what to expect. Like there's a lot of great dialogue and character acting in it that I can actually appreciate now. That I'm not expecting a total action fucking blasting Nazis with flamethrower that kind of movie. But like, there's always a scene or multiple scenes in Tarantino movies where, and I can go through the back catalogue, like where you just can't fucking leave your seat. Like if you go back, Reservoir Dogs, right? We'll go through it. Reservoir Dogs, where there's like the stuck in the middle with you, the iconic scene. Like try leaving your seat while that scene's on. Pulp Fiction, Ezekiel 25:17. But there's multiple ones. Like even Bring Out the Gimp. Even in the cafe at the end. You know what I mean? What about when there's like so many of these in Pulp Fiction? What about when Uma Thurman overdoses and they're in the house and they're like, when they're holding the needle over her?
Yeah.
Like try blink during that scene and you can't. Jackie Brown, the whole like 20-minute sequence where they're like they're playing the con at the end of the movie out from different angles. From Dusk Till Dawn, even if like you think of the scene where immigration stops them at the border of Mexico and they're just and Quentin Tarantino's character starts like having a fit in the bathroom and going mad at George Clooney, and George Clooney has to knock him out. And how do they get away with that? Like, I can go through it movie for movie for movie. There's always one scene, and there's a 20-minute scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where, like, these scenes, like, they come from nowhere. They come from nowhere. You're not expecting them. You're not waiting. Like previously in that scene in Django Unchained with Leonardo DiCaprio, what's happening before them? They're just having dinner. They're having the crack. They're having a laugh. And then Samuel L. Jackson notices a look that Hildy and Django exchange. And then he goes in, warns Leo, and from then on, it's like, don't move. Don't even fucking breathe, because we've no idea what's going to happen. The tension is just ratcheted up to like 15 out of 10. You know what I mean? And you're just like, you can't breathe. And they have one of those scenes in this movie, and it's just like, oh my God, what the fuck is going to happen? I can't breathe. Like, that's what he's so good. And that, like, when you're feeling that feeling when you're watching a movie, like, not even like happiness or enjoyment or entertainment, just pure tension, just pure stuck, just being not able to like blink or breathe or look away from the screen. Like, that's what he does, and that's what makes his movie so good.
Well, he is one of the best directors around, and you know, his films will stand the test of time. Absolutely unbelievable. I just loved I love the little things. You know what I mean? Like that scene, like we were talking about there, Calvin Candy and the blood scene. I love stuff like that. But then there was another one as well, and I came across this, and we were talking about this before we came on, and it was a scene from The Hateful Eight, and I couldn't believe this. It was you know, the scene where Kurt Russell picks up the guitar and smashes it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He picks up the guitar and smashes it, and I don't know the actress's name in that scene, but her look of shock and horror wasn't acting. It was her actually going, "Oh my God, what have you done?" Because they had a number of replica guitars, exactly the same, that he was going to smash scene over scene over scene while they were shooting it, and he actually broke a 150-year-old, €40,000 guitar that came from a museum that they said, right, we're going to take very good care of this, nothing's going to happen to it, it'll be back in the museum in a couple of weeks, and they smashed it to bits. Yeah. And that scene, that take, went into the film. So I'm assuming he had to pay that. I'm assuming he had to pay that museum a lot of money. Going, really sorry, we smashed your guitar, but here's $1 million. You know.
Yeah, well, if it made the movie, then they did all right with it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I'd say they were okay paying it off. Like, but they got a great scene out of it. So like, yeah.
But he seems to like going, okay, well, that was very, very real, but you know what, let's stick it in the film. Like the blood scene, very, very real. We'll put it in the film. He's just that good of a director. His writing is absolutely amazing. You know, I particularly like, and I'll keep going back to Django. I love Django, even though, like Leonardo DiCaprio said, it's very, very racially motivated, a lot of racist slurs and just a lot of the M word. Don't particularly like hearing it myself, especially when white people are saying it. I just don't like the word in general. Yeah. But you can't get over how good of performances from the likes of Waltz, the likes of Leonardo DiCaprio, Sam Jackson. Just unbelievable, like.
Yeah, it's unreal. Like, even, and like, my favorite Christoph Waltz moment in a Tarantino movie is the start of Inglourious Bastards, where he's introduced as a character. Like, they have, and he just arrives at the French farm.
Yeah.
And like, and then they all just run off, and then he comes in, and you instantly get it. You're like, the Nazis are coming. Here's what's happening. Right, okay. And then he disarms you. Like, we don't know Christoph Waltz at this stage. Well, I didn't anyway. Like, maybe there was a lot of, you know, movie geeks out there who knew, like, he's like, I've been watching him on the indies for 15 years, kid. But like, maybe there was a lot of people, I didn't know him then. And this is my introduction to him. And then he comes in and he's so charming and nice and totally disarms you from what you expect, how you expect they're going to portray a Nazi. And then comes in and he's like, oh, would you allow me to try some of your beautiful milk? It is your home after all. Like, you know, would you care for me to sit down or anything like that? He's just like so nice. But that makes it scarier because you're like, I know you're a Nazi. Yeah. I know you're a Nazi, and I know you're going to do horrific shit. Like, this scene isn't put in, like, Quentin Tarantino has not written a film. Oh, you know, sometimes it wouldn't surprise me. He hasn't written a film where he's like, Nazis, actually sound lads. You know what I mean? That's not what's happening here. So something very fucked up is about to happen, and sure enough, it goes where it goes. But just teasing that out, it's just one of those scenes where he just plays it perfectly, and then the bit of menace kicks in, and then it's just slowly, you can just see the tone changing, but his tone isn't changing. It's just the mood of the room is changing based on like how he's slowly pushing it, and just that performance, it was absolutely spot on for the movie. And then you're like, as soon as that happens, like, it's one of those great, like, Tarantino monologues and scenes of dialogue where you're like, oh shit, we are in for a classic here, because his last one was Death Proof, and that was a bit of a dud. It was very self-indulgent. It wasn't great. And as a Tarantino fan, when I went into Inglourious, I was like, has he lost it? Is this it? Like, have we seen him his best? But then you see that scene and you're like, no, this is up there. This is already up there with like Reservoir Dogs. Like the way that started with the whole Madonna like a virgin.
Yes.
Why did she call it like a virgin scene? And it's just like, or Pulp Fiction started with dialogue where they're talking about like why it's good to rob restaurants instead of banks, like just those little random bits of dialogue where it's like they're flexing, he's showing off, he's like, you have no idea how good of a movie, and it's so good. I'm gonna have 10 minutes of just people having the bants to start it off, and then I'm gonna just, whenever I feel like it, I'm just gonna flick on the on switch, and you're gonna be watching one of the best movies you've ever seen. Like, so yeah, no, Christoph Waltz, so absolutely phenomenal in both of those movies.
You know what? Obviously, you're a big fan, and would it be? It wouldn't be amiss of me to say that. Would you be more of a fan of this than you were on our first podcast of Harry Potter?
That's
a difficult one, isn't it?
Two very different things.
Yes.
No, I can't choose.
You can't.
Like Harry Potter is kind of like that's a formula.
Well, Harry Potter's the kid. Harry Potter's the kid in you, whereas Tarantino's the adult.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the way I like to look at it.
Brilliant way of putting it.
Yeah, that's the way
of putting it. Yeah.
You've always got that kid in you, so the likes of certain things. Like one of my favourite films of all time, like you were saying at the start, Pulp Fiction is the one film that you can, the script from top to bottom. You know every single word. There's one film that I know, and not a lot of people actually know it. It's Masters of the Universe, He-Man, Dolph Lundgren.
Whoa!
Absolutely loved that film. It was probably one of my first films, because that came out in the mid '80s. I know that. I acted that out with my cousin. I acted that out. Whenever she came in, she was always Evelyn, I was always Skeletor, but we acted all the parts out. I know that top to bottom, every single word. I'm not going to do it now, but I could recite a lot of it now.
You're a fan of Masters of the Universe then?
I love Masters of the Universe. Absolutely. Absolutely amazing.
Jerry,
that's my child.
We're gonna do a bit of producing on air now. Right. Okay. Whenever you don't have content for a week's show, I want you and Dave to reenact all of that. Just give Dave a script of it, and you do it from memory, and I want us to reenact the entire movie in audio form.
I think
everyone listening now wants to hear that show, so like we need to do that in a future episode of Talk Nerdy to Me.
I could. I literally, I'm rolling dry. Like I know every word. I know every word of the entire script, but like the one I know the most, the one I could do the mannerisms, the voice, everything.
The movie.
Skeletor, yeah, Skeletor.
You know what? That's not a bad call.
It's not a bad. You know what? We might do that, Dave. We might do that.
I want to hear that episode, and trust me, everyone listening wants to hear that episode now. That's a very.
I tell you what, if that gets me an acting job or a voiceover job, I tell you, I'm going to give you 10%. You're getting 10% straight away. Absolutely.
Dibs on Julie.
But I'll get back to the point I was saying. Basically,
dibs on Julie.
Go away. Go away. But the point I was getting, like, that's my feel good kids. Like, obviously there's killings and all and whatever, but that's the kid in me. Whereas I like more adult stuff now as well, and Tarantino would be one of them. So I know you say Pulp Fiction. It would be your favourite film of all time, so it's obviously your favourite Tarantino film. But when you look at the actors and the performances, what would you look at that and go, I know it's very difficult, so if you can't do you can't do a number one actor, give us a couple of ones that you think, right, they are the best when it comes to Tarantino movies.
Oh, Samuel L. Jackson. Everyone else is just playing for a distant second. Like, everyone else is playing for a distant second. Samuel L. Jackson's my favourite actor of all time, and it's based off Jules and Pulp Fiction. Like, so, no, that actually is something I can answer easily. But, like, that isn't to say that, like, everyone else is, like, far off him. Like, everyone else is also at their peak. Tarantino brings out these people. Like, look at here's something we haven't even touched on. Kill Bill. Bill in Kill Bill is David Carradine, amazing performance. Like, because consider for half the movie, for 3/4 of the entire two movies, he's off screen. His face isn't on screen, but he's a compelling heel nonetheless. Like, think about how fascinating that is. And then, like, you get the big scene at the end, which is with the bride, B, and then Bill. They finally meet, and it's just like them just having the chats. And not only do they have to pay off what two movies have been building towards, but they also have to pay off, like, that their relationship was a real thing. thing, and that like why they were in love, because we didn't get to see much of that because all we're seeing is her trying to kill him, hence the name.
Yeah.
So we have to like explain the relationship and why they were so in love and why this actually matters, and they do so just through like a scene of dialogue together that David Carradine absolutely like. Rest in peace. Like, he was gone before our time, because he was someone that, like, oh my God, he'd have been in every Tarantino movie since after that performance because of that. Because we know he likes to use the same guys.
Yeah.
Like, what he's done for Harvey Keitel, like, The Wolf, but also as well, someone else who's, like, is underrated. Like, who else is there? Like, what's it? Christopher Walken, right? Christopher Walken. Two of my favorite mic drop scenes in movie history. True Romance, which, like, is a Tarantino movie.
Mm-hmm.
He only wrote it. It was directed, I think, by Robert Rodriguez. But,
doesn't matter. He's
like,
still a part of it. It's one of his movies.
It's like when you watch it, you're like, this is the first Tarantino movie. Like this is a Tarantino movie all the way. Like, you can just see the writing and stuff like that. But then the scene that he has with Dennis Hopper, where he's threatening him, and it's like basically all Sicilians are N-words, and like it's just like. And then, of course, like the iconic scene in Pulp Fiction where it's like the watch, where it's like your dad kept this watch in the only place the Slopes wouldn't find it. He kept it up his ass, and it was just like, and like he just arrived for one scene in both of those movies, has the best scene, and leaves. Like, Tarantino gets the absolute best out of A-list actors who have a serious back catalogue of their own. And he just absolutely nails. Even Al Pacino, like, he's in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
No way.
And like,
whoa,
yeah,
didn't know that.
And he just walks in now. He's credited. It's not a surprise cameo. I'm not giving away much there. Like, he is credited. But like he's like, even then, like, it's just like, oh, it's Al Pacino. He's back. He's not like old man. Like, he is older now, obviously, but like, you can't help that. But he's not like old man collecting the paycheck Al Pacino. He's like swaggering, hoo-ha, Al Pacino. You know what I mean?
I love hoo-ha Pacino. It's the best Pacino.
He's that guy, and it's just like, oh man, Tarantino can do it with anyone. Like, actors bring their A game for him. Like,
that's what he wants.
Well, you know, he really does bring the best out of them. But let's talk a little bit about the newest movie. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't gone to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, then this is your official. There you go. This is your official spoiler warning, just to be on the safe side. If you haven't watched it, then be very, very wary about after this point. But Rick, what did you know? Is it up there as one of the good Tarantino films?
I saw it on last Friday, so it would have been, when we're taping this, it would have been the day it opened. I saw it literally the first screening that I could have gone to, that it was on in my local cinema. I was there, and like, I left it not knowing what the fuck I'd watched. And I won't go, like, I know you guys haven't seen it yet, am I right in saying that?
No, I'm not seeing it yet.
Right, so I won't give away, when I say spoilers, I'll talk about bits, but I won't give away plotty. I won't ruin it for you guys either, okay?
Appreciate it.
But I left the screen not knowing what the fuck I'd watched. And it's one of those where, like, you know, I left Django knowing I'd just seen a classic movie and being thoroughly entertained. I left Inglourious feeling the same. I left this going, I don't know how I felt about that. And then it was kind of like a similar, I always say this about Return of the Jedi. Not Return of the Jedi, sorry, The Last Jedi, the most recent Star Wars kind of episode movie. And like, I loved it. Like, every day that's passed, my love for it has intensified. It just took me time to process it. You know what I mean? Because the thing with it is there's no real plot to it. Like, there's no, like, they have a basic threadbare plot, but what it is you're spending 2 hours in Hollywood in the 60s at a really interesting time for Hollywood, the turning point for Hollywood in many ways, because the Charlie Manson killer, like, murders of Sharon Tate, who's played by Margot Robbie in this movie, the Charlie Manson family murders of her were kind of a turning point for Hollywood, where it came from. Like, you see Leonardo DiCaprio's character acts in westerns, and like, he's a real, like, typical kind of movie star guy who's kind of at the end of his peak, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the plot. And that, like, but like, it was the end of an era where it turned away from having those cheesy kind of movie stars, and then the 70s Hollywood got a lot darker and it got a lot different, and it was a confusing transitional phase in kind of Hollywood movies, and that was what many people cry. So basically what you do is you get to hang out for nearly 3 hours in Hollywood, and then at the very end it just kind of fast forwards to the Manson murders and Tarantino's interpretation of them and how he sees it. And then you get like an all-time great Tarantino sequence. Like you get like, okay, if you thought you knew where Tarantino was going to go with the Manson murders, you don't. You don't. Like he goes completely left on it in his own way. Like, you know what I mean? Where it's just, I won't say much, but like when I look back at it now, it's like, it's such a good time hanging out in that era of Hollywood with those people. Like, they're complicated, but they're fascinating in a very Quentin Tarantino way. And even then, there's some like real like famous A-list people in it. Like there's a scene with Bruce Lee in it that people are going mental about because he kind of makes fun of Bruce Lee. But I found it really funny because it's like Bruce Lee's walking around and he's a bit of an arrogant twat. And he's like, my hands are registered weapons. And it's just like, oh yeah, maybe Bruce Lee was like that. Like, we're taught to kind of respect him as this almost deity-like figure. But like, what if you were just hanging out with him like at a movie lot when you weren't recording and you were between scenes and he starts going on like he used to in interviews? You'd be like, wanker. You know what I mean? And it's like,
I think there was actually a biopic or some sort of biopic. I don't know if it went out to movie or straight to DVD. I don't even know. But apparently, like, they presented this new other guy who was like a student or fellow student of Bruce Lee who came from Hong Kong and saw how Bruce Lee was doing. And apparently, like, you know, with all the success of his dojo, and this was, I think, when he started doing like Enter the Dragon and stuff like that, that he became a bit arrogant and stuff like that. And here's your man coming in and telling him, remember where you came from, lads. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know what happened to that, but I think I saw a trailer for it once, so I don't know if they actually meant anything for truths.
But you would expect that, you know, certain people get put on such a pedestal that you're like, when you see the real them, you're like, oh, you prick.
Yeah,
like, so that kind of gives a bit more reality.
Because it's like, it is interesting because you look at it through Tarantino's sense, but also as well, what I will say is that this might help people who are going to see it from not feeling the same kind of confused way I felt. Because I went kind of going expecting Tarantino to make like a grand commentary on 60s society or what we could learn from Hollywood back then or something like that. I expect them to make a commentary, and that was a mistake. And I think that's why I kind of like, I think that's why I was kind of left feeling a bit flat, because I was like, it didn't do that. It's just him telling stories about the characters that are in the movie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you have the Manson family and you have all that backdrop and you have Sharon Tate and stuff like that. But ultimately, it's a movie about his main characters.
Yeah.
And that's what all of his movies are. He's not trying to be a social commentator, you know what I mean? He's not trying to, like, make any grand lessons about, like, the way life is. And that's maybe what left me feeling a bit flat, because he does go left on a lot of things. And he does, like, there are very controversial bits. There are bits that aren't that great. There are bits that are, like, a bit all over the place. But for me, it's one of his, I'm dying to see it a second and third time. I probably will go see it a second and third time in the cinema. Like, it's really good, and every day I'm away from it, I like it a bit more.
I love the kind of the idea that the same as The Last Jedi. A lot of people hated it, but as time has gone on, we're still kind of split about who loves it and who hates it. But like me, I take it for what it was. And like that, I was like, every time I think of it, I was like, yeah, I like this bit more. Actually, that was brilliant. And I don't really like that bit, but this bit was great. There's certain parts of it, I absolutely agree. So you think that's pretty much like Once Upon a Time I'm in Hollywood. So now I'm actually excited.
If you were to criticize this movie, and there are a lot of bits in it, like the feet and stuff like that, and like some of the if you were to criticize this movie, much like The Last Jedi, you'd be criticizing it because what you expected it to be, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But what right did you have to say what it should be? You know what I mean? It's not your movie. You didn't make it, and like this wasn't your vision.
I hate when people do that anyway.
He also never promised you that it would be that. You know what I mean? Like, you just built this all up in your head, and then when it wasn't what's in your head, you're going to give out about that.
Exactly.
So that's, I think, why people would, because I think people thought it was going to be, it's a Tarantino movie about Charles Manson. It's not. Spoiler alert. Charles Manson is in this movie once. You see one scene with him in it, okay? So I'll tell you that from the outset. It's not a movie about Charles Manson. It's a movie about Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt.
Okay.
But there's a backdrop of the Manson family and all this stuff was going on. Like, to kind of tie it in, now, this isn't a spoiler. You learn this very early in the movie. But Leonardo DiCaprio lives next door to Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate. So that's that's the angle you're looking at everything from.
Right,
you know what I mean? And, like, but it's a movie about him and his career. And, like, it's not even really, like I said, it's not really even about anything. It's just hanging out in an era of time that Tarantino loves and looking at what the world was like and just getting to spend time there. I almost wish it was a TV show because it's like, I actually just like being here. And I would love to be here for an hour every week with these characters. You know what I mean? Because it's just, it looks amazing and it feels cool and, like, I don't really care about, like, the stories and stuff like that. I don't care about where it goes. Like, give me a vague narrative to get me through each episode, but I want to be here every week for an hour or so. You know what I mean?
See, I like that. I like the sound of that. The sound of that seems great. Because I was a bit nervous about going to see the film because we talked about doing this particular podcast, and then I'd seen a couple of reviews on Facebook. There was no spoilers in it, but a couple of reviews. And I'm like, oh, God, it's just... And then it's so weird because when you brought up the whole Last Jedi thing, it seemed to be the same people bitching about this film that bitched about The Last Jedi. And I was like, oh, now that you've said that, and it just clicked in my head, oh, you know what? I'm going to make my own decision on this film. But I'm excited because you can hear in your voice how much you like it and how much Tarantino means to you. And obviously you went into this film with an open mind. You didn't go in to expect, right, it's going to be this, and this. And it wasn't. It was something completely different, but you liked it. And the fact that every day since you're like, I want to go back and see it again. And that's what I want.
I want it is. And it's one of those, it stays with you. You kind of, and when you're not there and you're not watching it, you kind of miss it. You miss the characters.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I want to hang out with Cliff again. And I want to see what Rick's doing, like. And I want to go, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh man, like I kind of felt like I made friends and then I just had to go. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that though. It's like I was on holidays and I made friends with people and then I went home and I had to go back to normal life. Like, I kind of want to go back there, like, you know what I mean? That's how I feel about it now. And like, yeah, that's a happy feeling. And it's really entertaining. Like I said, there's a 20-minute sequence in the middle of it where you can't leave your seat. And it's just like, what is going to happen? Like, you know what I mean? Are big characters about to die? Because Tarantino will do it. This is the guy who killed John Travolta on the fucking jacks, like, in Pulp Fiction. You know what I mean? And then brought him back to life in the next scene, like, you know what I mean? Because he messed around with time, like.
Yeah.
So he'll do it, like, and then it's like, so you know, like, you can't, no one's safe here. But also then as well, like, there's that whole end sequence where it's just like, it reminded me a lot of Inglourious, and it's just like, what the fuck is going on? And it's just like, but in that way where like Tarantino all of a sudden is killing Hitler, and it's like, what? My brain is breaking watching this. Like, what's happening?
But that just so like just the passion in your voice. That just goes to show you. Obviously, the show is called Talk Nerdy to me, but it just goes to show you how nerdy you are about this, and that's not a bad thing. People seem to think nerdy is you're a nerd. I was like, no, you're nerdy about something. It's what you like, it's what you love, it's what makes you happy. And clearly this film made you happy.
Yeah, no, definitely did. It definitely did. Oh man, I could talk about this movie and Tarantino for hours, man.
Well, unfortunately,
just make sure you didn't get a bus home. Like, that's the only thing.
Well, unfortunately, Rick, we don't have hours because we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately. But I have to say, thank you so much for coming on. You've made me very excited to go and see this film, and I'm going to go and see it during the week. I definitely, Dave, what do you think?
100%.
It's 100% go and see this, isn't it?
I'm overdue to see it. Like, go to cinema anyway. To be honest with you, like, so like that's.
Well,
for this movie, 100%.
I was a big Cineworld guy, and I've cancelled my Cineworld now. I've gone to Odeon because it's nicer. The food is nicer. The seats are nicer. I want to go and see. Is it in IMAX? Maybe is it in IMAX?
I don't know.
Yeah, I saw it in Odeon, and are you like, is the one you're in the one with the recliner seats?
There is recliner seats in the one in East Wall, but I can I literally travel. I go and visit a friend of the show, Miss Vic Viper, all the time. We go into the cinema out in Ashbourne, out to the View Cinema out there, and they're recliner seats. So I really want to go and see a nice, comfortable seat to see this. So I'm thinking if it's in the IMAX out in Blanche, we're going. Absolutely.
I want it. Yeah, I want it. Like I love the one in Blanche for a few reasons. One, butter popcorn.
Yes.
2, nacho sauce. Nacho cheese sauce is amazing. 3, recliners. Oh yeah, all over that shit. It was great. It was like I did that for Avengers and I did it for this as well. Like, and it was just like, yeah, I'm treating myself and I'm gonna like do this right. Do this film right. It's nearly 3 hours. And like Jerry, you'll be grand. At least you won't need to piss, so you'll be all right. But let's not open that door again.
I was thinking about saying something because you were talking about that 20-minute sequence when you can't leave your chair. I was like, I wouldn't leave my chair anyway because I can hold my piss. But I tell you, here's one thing: you're talking about the popcorn, you're talking about the nacho sauce. Tell me you've combined them, please.
Oh, I used to do that. Like I worked in that cinema. I was a manager in that cinema back in the day. I used to do that. That was my hungover treat.
Oh yeah,
like that, yeah. Hot dog with cheese on it as well.
Oh, now I'm starving. Yeah. I am starving.
Yeah.
But Rick, listen, thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to going and seeing it now, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. And Dave, that was great. We loved that. We love listening to a bit of Tarantino, and of course we love having you on the show, Rick, because you're passionate about whatever you talk about. It was Harry Potter, it was Game of Thrones, and now Tarantino, and you've absolutely just excelled it for people. So I hope people go out and see this film. It's certainly exciting. But Rick, thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure, guys. Love it. And Dave, hook me up with those. I'm doing that Dave Cullen costume with it. I'm doing it.
All right.
I want the bandana. I want the Dave bandana.
Oh. There we go.
Make sure it's an Arabian scarf, just for kids.
An Arabian scarf, there we go. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed it as well. And I'm so thankful that that all those tens of thousands of you listen each and every fortnight. So thank you so much for listening. But from Rick and from Dave and from myself, you've been nerdy, I've been Jerry. Thanks very much.